That brings back memories. That really does bring back memories. That was Imam Isa, Al Hajj Malik. Oh no, not Al Hajj Malik, but Al Imam Isa. Isa, you know, um, his name now in modern time, recent time, is Dr. Malachi Z. York. This was back in the old Ansar Allah days, and I was when I first came into Islam, I came in as a student and practicing Muslim in the Ansar Allah teaching and the doctrine. I was never a member of the community, but I was an avid reader of the books, and I participated in the Juma class, Juma prayer, and Friday prayer, and I took my Shahada and became a Muslim back in 1989. I brought my whole family pretty much over to Islam. My brother, my sisters, my mother, yeah, and eventually my father, but he went into Islam, uh, another sect of Islam. Right? But those were beautiful times. The Ansar Allah community here in Brooklyn, New York, and there were communities all over the country of the Ansar Allah community. It was an extension of the Ansars in the West. I mean, in the East, in Sudan. Dr. Malachi Z. York, known as Imam Isa, still, people know him as Imam Isa, had made the link between the Eastern Ansars in the Sudan and the sect that Dr. Malachi Z. York set up here in America, in the Bushwick section of Brooklyn. It was something to see. I'll never forget when I first came in contact with Dr. Malachi Z. York's teachings, seeing the pictures of the masjid, the house of prayer, that's what they refer to as the mosque, on the books, and seeing the earlier pictures in the early books. I mean, it just took my breath away when I walked down Bushwick Avenue and I saw that big, beautiful masjid. Felt like I was walking into another time frame, another country. And to see the brothers out standing on guard, seeing the sisters in the Emma and the face covering and things like that, it really, like I said, it really did something to me. I even got a chance to see the children, though they were behind the gates in schools and things like that, and basically sectioned off in their group. Dr. York had it going like a Islamic community. And it was a real community. Everybody lived there, brothers went out and peddled, sisters, stayed at home, took care of the children. And, it had a very strong appeal on me. Dr. Malachi Z. York always said that he was picking up where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad left off in the school of Islam, and just in teaching knowledge in general, just being the successor to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he did, in fact, bring a lot of, hidden knowledge and certain things about Islam out until eventually he walked his way out of Islam and went into a whole other school of thought. He walked into the Hebrew school of thought, even though the Ansars were always Hebrew. Then he walked into the Christian, way of thought, and then into Egyptology. And they were all schools within the teaching of Nuwapu, which was the science under which Dr. York set up in 1967. Right? Now, Islam has always had an appeal to black people. It has ever since it was introduced here by Deuce Ali, and who was a Moor, and people like Noble Drew Ali. Right? These are some of the first Moors here who set up the Moorish Science Temple, and it was predicated or founded on Islam, the principles of Islam, more in the foundation of the Eastern practice, where the feathers were worn, and certain Islamic dress. Noble Drew Ali was a merchant seaman who traveled over to Tunisia and I believe Morocco. His name was Timothy Drew, and he came back over and he converted to Islam. And the Moorish science, tended to have a really big following here in America. However, black people first started to come in contact in Africa with Islam, through the so-called Arabs. Right? And a lot of people like to act as though, so-called black people were Muslim already by nature. Now, I took issue with that only because the practice in itself and the way the religion was organized by these, should we say, European-looking Arabs, these Dr. York is referring to as the pale Arabs or the Indian-looking Arabs. They did conquer a lot of African countries and villages and took blacks as slaves and converted them over to Islam. A lot of black Muslims today would like to forget that part of the history. Right? However, Islam took on more of a stronger appeal when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Fard Muhammad founded the Nation of Islam. People said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Fard came out of the Moorish Science Temple. And there is some proof to that. Right? You see in certain pictures Honorable Elijah Muhammad wearing the long Moorish fez with the star and crescent on it. Then as things evolved in the Nation of Islam, the crowns that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wore shrunk down. He cut them down, and and it came about the universe. Right? Fard taught about it being a universal teaching of Islam. Right? The reason why it appealed to black people so greatly from the Nation of Islam standpoint is because to see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with those crowns on his head, those feathers on his head with the star and the sun and the moon and the star and the and the crescent and everything, it put people in mind of something celestial, mystical, something beyond this world, universal, out in space, right? Because black people, I say this all the time, are not from this planet. We are from another star system, another galaxy. Actually, I should say a moving planet. I have another galaxy, a moving planet that moves beyond or moves through galaxies. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught somewhat on that when he spoke about the mother plane. This is why Islam fascinated us, because of the symbols. It represented universal symbols beyond this physical realm. Symbols that were dealing with advanced intelligence. See, this is the problem people had with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he talked about Islam and, the way they practiced Islam in the Nation of Islam wasn't on point with the way the so-called Arabs practiced Islam, mainly because they were trying to follow the traditions of Prophet Muhammad, or so-called Prophet Muhammad. They were trying to follow his traditions. And at one point in Masonry, they referred to Islam as Mohammedism, because the Muslims in the East, the people who supposedly following Islam, they were following really the ways of Muhammad. Dyeing their beards red, dressing like Muhammad. So, these people didn't even understand. And you can ask a Muslim today, they can't even tell you what Allah is. They can't even define Allah. They just say Allah is, and he's omnipresent, omnipotent, but they go he, as if he was a physical man. Right? They can't describe what Allah is. So how can you follow something when you can't even describe what it is? Right? You can't describe something as it is, then that means you can't really seriously be following it. However, it had a strong appeal to black folks. And the way the Honorable Elijah Muhammad presented it, the way he presented Islam and Allah as a man, and Islam as submission. Right? Though the word Islam itself means peace, a lot of people mistranslate it to mean submission, when it's true, it really doesn't mean that. From the word salam, Islam. Right? We're going to go into that deeply tonight. Right? We're going to break this down in depth because, it's still a popular religion, or as they refer to it, a way of life. So it deserves some discussion. I am the intellectual Nuben Menkareg, and this is State of Mental Radio, and tonight we're speaking about the real reason the real reason why Islam appeals to black people. Right? I just gave you the celestial version of it, the celestial connection to it, of the universe and the stars and the crescents and the mysticism of it. Right? Not to mention the fact that the Arabs, they speak about Allah as being the hidden, or they speak about him as being unseen, and and that he's a spirit, he's a force, which is an idea that really didn't come from Islam, or an understanding that didn't come from Islam. They picked up that understanding of what God is from your Christians, right? And really, not even your Christians. It goes even deeper into what the Egyptians were following. It goes deeper because the Egyptians taught about the god Amen, right, as being the hidden one, right? And if you're hidden, that means you're unseen. You're hidden to the world. So therefore, they take the concept of the idea of Allah and attach that to Allah as well, as him being unseen and a force that can't be seen, this, that, and the third, and he doesn't have a defined presence, right? Yet they refer to him as he. So what they do is they push Muhammad up, and they follow the Prophet, as they say. They follow the Prophet Muhammad. They do as he does and act as he does, and dress the way he dresses, and dye their beards red, and they do the practices, and they practice how Muhammad practiced, which is hearsay. Now, people had a problem with Elijah Muhammad when he said that he was the Muhammad of this day and time. People had a problem with that. Arabs and, the black Muslims who ended up following the Arabs had a problem with Elijah Muhammad saying that. Though what he did in Islam, through using the vehicle called Islam, was to clean up black folks. Right? That was miraculous. Yet people don't see or think that what Elijah Muhammad did was miraculous, was connected to God or to a divine or supreme plan to move people forward and clean people up. People don't see that. However, it appealed to people because of how he utilized it, how he made it more palatable for black people by dressing the men up in suits, by cleaning up the faces of the men, by cleaning the women up. He didn't pattern it after an Eastern teaching or philosophy or tradition of the Arabs. And that's the problem people had with Islam. He patterned it after American society. He cleaned up after American society. Why? Because American society was the premier society. That's where black people were being raised and reared at. So it wouldn't have been smart to try to change the culture or what people grown up in, in that day and time. Black people didn't grow up amongst the East. We grew up in the West. The people who he came to with Islam, it was effective to them, and why it became popular is because of how he presented Islam as a more advanced and modern, and an advanced and modern form, and people had a problem with that. It appealed to our people more, and even today, because a lot of people came through Islam by way of the Nation of Islam, by way of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where these men cleaned themselves up. These men were not smoking, were not drinking, were not getting high, had to live by a code of conduct, had to keep their faces clean. Right? This was a modern form of Islam. It's the same way the Jews, right? How you have your Jews who don't wear no facial hair, right? They're cleaned up. They're more moderate Jews. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, were moderate Muslims. Arabs had a problem, like I said, because he wasn't following the traditional way or the old customs of men. Yeah, so being that he wasn't following the old customs of men, they felt like he wasn't following the way Islam was supposed to be dictated. But if Islam is from God or Allah, and this man is doing things, miraculous things to clean up black people, then obviously it had to be from God. Right? The people in the East, they wanted to follow men. When Islam was presented to black people back then, certain people had a problem. Certain people had a problem with putting on long robes and beads and things like that. But it was popularized later after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad died, because a lot of the Muslims in that time, they were opened up in the 60s, and they, allowed the so-called Arabs to tell people in the Nation of Islam that what Elijah Muhammad was teaching wasn't real Islam, according to Muhammad. Now, you can only have that way of thinking or think that way if you believe that Muhammad invented Islam, if you believe that Islam belonged to Muhammad. If you believe that Islam belonged to Muhammad, then that means that you were following the teachings of a man and how he dictated the teaching. You wasn't following no teaching from God, because if it was cleaning up and helping people and making people's lives better, then it had to be something supreme that this man was presenting, whether he called it Islam or not. That was the appeal. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was able to modernize things, and our people who were in that time frame were looking forward to new times, because prior to when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came with Islam, black people were going through bad times under the Christianity, the racism, and things like that. So when Fard came, when he put Elijah in that post and they started teaching Islam, it offered something new to the people. Better times, new times, times where they could be proud and have something to be proud of and stand together on. Right? That had a great appeal to people. Men who wanted to stand up and be proud, women who wanted to stand up and be proud of themselves and of their men, people who wanted to clean themselves up. Right? So the organization was strong. It even made men who crossed over from Christianity. It made Islam appeal to men who crossed over from Christianity. The clean-cut look, right? The codes and conducts and things of that nature, right? Even the name Allah, the all-seeing Ah, or Amen, all Amen, right? The all-seeing, everything, the omnipresent, omnipotent. You see the name all attached to Ah, all Ah. Coincidence? The Arabs were over in that area, right? And they were your biggest robbers and thieves of all the artifacts, the golden pieces that our people left behind in Egypt. They ran over there immediately after the Greeks made their way out. The Arabs ran over there and took things and went into the libraries and read things. And they did. They did take their religion, Islam, right? Their created religion, and they added certain elements of what the Egyptians practiced into their religion of Islam. They took certain things. They took certain things that our people, remnants of our people, were still there practicing. Right? You can see it in the fezzes, which came from our people. You can see the Egyptian pharaohs and sitting in the statue form where they had feathers on their head. The same feathers that your Moors put on, the same feathers that your Muslims put on, your Arabs put on. Right? The whole Allah thing, or all the whole hidden thing of God came from Amen and the Egyptians. The whole way the women wore the top feathers that the Nation of Islam even adopted. Right? There's a reason why you see in Masonry, where one of the foundational points, the lower foundational points in religion, they say they use Islam, or what they call Mohammedanism, as one of their points, along with Christianity and Judaism. They respect those religions, right? Because the Muslims or Islam were in the pillar of Egypt, right? They were in the heart of Egypt. They were the closest to the Sphinx and all of these buildings and edifices. They were close to the libraries. And they took certain ideas and they moved in on those ideas and they represented them in Islam. And it was passed all the way up. And it had an appeal. Still has an appeal to certain people. Like I said, that appeal was carried in Freemasonry heavily. It's carried heavily. And when you're talking about symbols and stars and crescents and signs and things like things of universal order, talking about laws of the universe, which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad spoke heavily about, that appealed to the people, black people anyway. You know, you really get to the crust of what Islam is without the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who added or was able to bring in the things from Masonry. You know, the things that certain things that the Muslims kept in there that they took from the Egyptians. You bring that in, and you'll see the appeal that it had on the people. Why our people feel so connected to it. Not to mention, you know, certain elements of Christianity. Because in Islam, they always kept Jesus present, Isa ibn Maryam. They even, like I said, dedicated the whole book in the Holy Quran to Jesus and Mary, which was a selling point to black people when they accepted Islam, right? And when the Arabs wanted to attach their religion of Islam onto Christianity and the Bible, they wanted to attach their Quran onto the Bible. They wanted to say that Muhammad came with the Quran to straighten out the Bible, right? This is what they wanted to say, that Muhammad came and he was the last prophet after Jesus, and that he came to straighten out the errors in the Bible, right? So, like I said, that, you know, the fact that Jesus wasn't taken out of the equation after black people that were enslaved through Christianity here. They got the double whammy. They was enslaved through Islam and Christianity here. You know, and our people were heavily indoctrinated with Christianity and Jesus Christ and things like that. That was not really a hard pill to swallow as long as you kept Jesus in there, right? That's why it appealed to the people. It links the people. It links the religion together. It makes it palatable for our people to follow, right? Gives them something to believe in. However, as I said, there is no such thing as a Jesus Christ. There is no person named Jesus Christ that walked the earth. There were, you know, beings or people that walked around who were in that prophet form, where these stories were taken from. And I said the character of Jesus was a symbolic character of many different prophets or people who prophesied the future who came. He was a symbolic person. He wasn't a real person. So how can you have a story about an Isa ibn Maryam in the Quran if that person never existed and that person has never been proven to exist? Right? That's the thing with religion, or what they call a way of life. It doesn't bear the burden of giving proof, of showing and proving, like the 5%ers say. Right? They never had to bear the burden of proving that a Jesus existed. Right? It's just this man's story or his account of the vision that he had on a rock somewhere in the mountains that he spoke to God. And people accepted this. Why did black people accept it? Because we understand instinctively, it's encoded us to understand that men will come and receive prophecy. A man will come and receive future accounts to lead the people forward. We understood that. That's something that we, as a people, black people, understood, because we had people like that come up amongst us in the past. Whether we were in Egypt, whether we were in Samaria, whether we were in Mesopotamia, we always had men that came amongst us who were future thinkers, future receivers, advanced thinkers who received intelligence, who received knowledge from God to move the people forward. So that idea of a so-called, what they call a prophet, wasn't foreign to us. So that's another selling point and why it appealed to us. They use key things. They keep key things. It's the same way in this when the Christian slave master, white slave masters, was presenting Christianity to blacks. They allowed them to keep some of their African, so-called African traditions in the Christianity, so that they would make it more. Christianity would be more palatable to them to swallow. They allowed them to keep certain things, right? I would assume it would be the singing and the dancing and the jumping around and things like that, that certain black people was doing in Africa, and you see it today in the church. They allowed them to keep certain things just to keep the natives quiet so that they wouldn't be restless, so that it wouldn't be a hard thing to get them to swallow it and thus brainwash them, right? Our people, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed away, and that was a void that was left, because even he said himself that Islam, all of it would be outlived, that something new would have to come. He talked heavily about the year 1970. And it's no coincidence, now that I think about it, today's the 7th, and I'm doing this broadcast on Islam on the 7th day of December, right? Because 7 is carries a heavy meaning in the Bible, right? The number after 6, and I broke down the number 7 in a couple of shows back, where I talked about how number 7 talks about the day in which God rested after the 6th day when man was created. And I said that the number 7 actually represented the day when God came and rested on earth, meaning that he came down on earth. He rested on earth. Didn't mean that he went to sleep, right? People never broke that down on what did it mean when God rested. How can God rest? It meant that he came down here on earth and rested, took up residency on earth, walked amongst men and women. And it's talked about God walking amongst his creations and talking to them. A man, a physical man. That's what appealed to men who weren't into spookism, that God is a man. That resonated with our people, and that appealed to our people when we went into the Nation of Islam, right? Because we always presented God as a man. You look at the big statues in Egypt, they're showing you the picture of Amun. Statues of Amun as a man, right? And this is where your Greeks and your Romans got the idea to start painting God as a man, but in their image, right? The only ones who stopped doing that, who didn't do that, were your Arabs. They didn't paint or present Allah as a they didn't present Allah as a physical person. They made him a spirit or an unseen force. Why did they do that? The reason they did that is because they knew that they wanted to spread the religion all over the world, all over the planet. In order to do that, they knew that it wouldn't be feasible for them to make Allah a man, or a man who has a race or a color, because then they felt it wouldn't appeal to other people and foreign people that they were trying to spread the religion to. Because when they went and they conquered different places, they went to Africa, they went all over the place conquering and spreading Islam. They wanted it to be a national or international religion. So the best way to do that is by not presenting God as a color or as a physical person, because if you present him as a physical person, then he has to have a physical color. He has to have a physical shade or a complexion, or has to look a certain way. And then you're going to have certain people who won't be feeling that. They're not going to like it. That's why he's never presented as in a form, or he's always presented as formless in Islam. But in Christianity and the Catholicism, they presented him as a white man. Why? Because they took from the Greek and Roman gods, and they took from those the ideas of those gods. They was, which they took from the Egyptians, who painted God as a black man first, and then they took it from there and made the gods in their image, and they carried it right into Christianity. Right? But they always had the idea of making Islam a colorless religion, a colorless way of life, a way of life that had no national boundaries. That's why you look at it, and it's everywhere in China and Africa and America and the East, all over the place. Russia. Everywhere you look, Islam is everywhere. Same as Christianity, but like I said, they push the whole image of themselves in that. The only representation that they use for Allah is Muhammad. And in certain masjids, they put Muhammad's name up right next to Allah's name. Right? Right there. Now, like I said, if you're saying that Allah is unseen, that he's not a physical being, and that he is the omnipresent, omnipotent, and total power, and that Islam is from him, then you can't dictate what Islam is. You have 77 different sects of Islam, right? And because it came out of the East, right, if you're claiming Islam as your way of life and you're saying that everybody else is converts, like I've heard a lot of Arabs say, they even told black people that Islam is their way of life and that black people are converts, which is true. What they're really saying is they created the idea of Islam. That's what they're really saying. That Islam didn't come from no God. It came from them and their ideas of what they put together. Because how could you sit up here and claim Islam? How could you claim a religion that you say come from God and that you're practicing it right? How can you claim that as opposed to somebody else who claims it? Right? Especially if nobody there is a prophet, or you can't tell me how God look, or you can't prove how God look. How can you claim a religion as yours? Only way you can do that is if you acknowledging that you made the religion up, right? And that you took certain things to make it appealing toward people, which is what you did. Took bits and pieces of Egyptology, took bits and pieces of Christianity, and you crafted together a religion, or what you call a way of life. You don't want to acknowledge that to be true, but you can find all of those stories. Because, when you took the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and them out of Islam, all Islam is and all the majority of it is just a bunch of stories about Arabs in the desert. That's all it is. That's your Quran, a bunch of stories about, and poetry, and a bunch of stories about Arabs in the desert. That's it. The Nation of Islam, and whenever black people come into something, we make it more moderate. We make it more modern. We make it more relevant because we are new people. We are people who are constantly trying to move into the new in some way, shape, or form. Some of us are stuck in the old, but we try to make things new. Same reason why we bring Egyptology and, black people trying to practice Egyptology and they're trying to practice Christianity. All these religions now, they're trying to renew it instead of leaving it where they belong, because they're actually offshoots of bits and pieces of fragmented truth. And the real way of life of our people that we're supposed to be following, which is an elect way of life, right? The way of life of God, which we refer to as mentellect, because we acknowledge that true intelligence and guidance comes from God to the elect, to a chosen people, right? It's always said that throughout your Bible, in your Quran, and in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he spoke about our people being a chosen people. That's another thing that appealed to us, to understand that we were a chosen people, that we went through all the things we went through, and that we survived the things we went through because we were meant to be a chosen people. That appealed to us, right? That if we guided ourselves, if we governed ourselves a certain way, we would receive power. See, in this society, like it or not, the ones who are in control, they guide themselves a certain way. That's why they have all the principles in Freemasonry. They have the principles of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and all of these things within Freemasonry. They have the doctrines and degrees and things like that, and all the principles in them, and they follow them to an extent. They follow them to some extent to keep order, which gives them power. Their power comes from the order that they keep. How they don't allow things to be chaotic. That's where the power comes from. It's not from guns. It's not from threats. That's only for the savages. No, the power is in the order, the structure. That's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad put together the Nation of Islam the way they did. That's why they set it up in a structure and an order. Because with structure and order comes power. And our people recognize power. Why did Allah have 99 attributes? 99 plus 1 attributes. Names that were attributed to him. Why? Because he was a man, amen, amen. Only a man or a person has attributes, things that are attributed to them. Only a physical person can have things attributed to him because other people who are watching him are attributing these things to him. We understood that. The whole idea of an unseen God was not real to us, and it's still not real. People have been trying to sell us that idea even through all the religions, but we didn't accept that. That's why, like I said, our people were moved toward the idea of Islam. Like I said, a lot of our people came through the Nation of Islam, and now you got about 4 million black people here that practice Islam. About 4 to 4.5 million black people in America that practice Islam, and they've had some connection through either the Nation of Islam or some through the Moorish science, right? That was a big connection to us, right? That whole Eastern connection is very strong with us because the Eastern connection, the familiarity with it, is from Egypt, right? It's from Egypt. That whole principle of Eastern teaching and culture has a strong effect on us because, like I said, this is where we come from. This is where we built kingdoms and empires from. This is where we ruled the world from. So it is encoded in us to be more in tune with the Eastern teaching, right? That's what made it appeal to our people. Things that are attributed to your God makes him a physical man. You can't attribute things to something that you can't see or something that's not there. They tried to sell us that idea, but it never goes over. Even they don't believe that. That's why they refer to God as he. They don't say it. They don't say whatever, the force or whatever. They say he. Everybody says he by nature. Why? Everybody says he out of repetition. Why? Because that goes back to where we first showed God or portrayed God as a man who walked on earth. Amen. Amen. At the end of your prayers, amen. All of this has an origin. All of your teachings in Islam have an origin and a link to something else. Things that resonated with us from our past. They linked it in so that, our people are going into this mindset of peace, submission. That's another thing that connects with our people, why it appeals to us, Islam. Because it is a peace religion. Well, the way the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and them practiced it was that it's supposed to be a religion of peace. They say submission, but it's really not submission. It's peace. Islam means peace. Right? Salam. Salam alaikum. Peace be upon you. Salam. Black people are peaceful by nature. I mean, you have some of your negative people, right? But the majority of our people are peaceful by nature. How else could you have done what you've done to black people in this society and they have not struck back? Because they're peaceful people by nature. And people take advantage of that. People come into your neighborhoods and take from you or sell you things, talk to you any kind of way. We'll hurt each other, but we won't hurt anybody else because we are peaceful people by nature. And we really don't even want to hurt each other. A lot of that's behavior from some negative people who are on a low mental frequency who act that out. But we are peaceful people by nature. You understand? So a religion that's dealing in peace or talking about peace appeals to us. We don't want to fight. We're not warlike people. And that's what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had taught in Islam. But it's funny how a religion that's supposed to be about peace, we run around a bunch of people who are in the East who are about nothing but war. we run up under a religion of people who are about nothing but war. Now people will say, okay, they fighting for themselves, and they fighting for their lives, and they fighting this, that, and they fighting this, that, and the third. Okay, yeah, fine. Right? But these are a bunch of barbaric and warlike people. Men who treat their women like property. Right? Who are abusive. Who carry a barbaric mindset. Right? Who kill people, for a belief. People who are extremists. I don't care who it is. Right? Now, a peaceful people are an intelligent people. People who are intelligent are peaceful people because they don't have time for all of the fighting and killing and destroying each other. They're trying to think of better ways to enhance peace and keep order. They'll get some dummy. If they need somebody to police something or hurt somebody, they'll get somebody else to do it. They have ways of thinking to get somebody else to do it. They don't do it themselves. They get other people to do it. They get other people to be the force that maintains the peace. What do they say with police officers? They out here to keep the peace, to maintain order. And that's something that we had wanted or we desire. The intelligent ones of our people desire in our realm. We desire order and peace because order and peace creates a peaceful thinking environment. And when you have a peaceful thinking environment, you can evolve in your thoughts and receive higher thoughts. So, of course, the last thing we want to do is be around fighting and killing and all this other stuff. Right? That takes us out of our environment. That takes us away from the nature that we're supposed to have. We're supposed to be in tune with. Right? Another reason, the handling of the women. That appeals to men in Islam, black men. The polygamy thing. Right? The idea of polygamy appeals to black men. Now, polygamy didn't come from Islam. That was taken by Islam. Our people were practicing polygamy, multiple marriages to multiple women, and going back as far as Egypt, Sumeria, all these places we were practicing that. And any so-called African culture, and even in the East, or in the West, we was practicing polygamy, multiple marriage, which was taken into Islam. That's another thing that attracted the men, because it was familiar to them. The idea, the whole culture, the whole idea of that was familiar to them. This idea of monogamy is not, does not really resonate with black men, whether they're Muslim or not, because they come from a culture that upholds polygamy. It's still in their DNA. It's still encoded in them. That's something that they tried to change here in America, but they never really, it doesn't really affect the men, because the men are going to do what they want to do. Even if they have to run around and be with other women in secret, they're going to do it, because it's not that they're cheating or anything like that. It's that that's encoded in them to do that. It's in their genetics. It's in their DNA. They've been doing it for so long, it's constantly going to come out in some way, shape, or form. So to find a religion that appeals to that, that speaks to that part of their nature, of course they're going to flock to that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he did it, But then people say they had a problem with that. Right? That's Islam. It goes to the heart and the core of something that is familiar with us. A lot of its practices are familiar with us. A lot of its ideas, its principles, its tenets, trying to keep order. I said that the universal thing, the idea of something that's coming from a higher order down. And I could understand where the idea of submission came from, because when you submit to something, you're supposed to be submitting to a higher order, which goes back into that celestial plane. But the word Islam itself doesn't mean submission. It means peace. And the things that the Muslims do in their prayer, they pray in order to connect with God. Even certain prayers and certain ways and forms of prayer were taken from the Egyptians. You'll look on their wall and you'll see certain ways the Egyptians make prayer. I believe they refer to it as Silah. And what do the Muslims call their prayer? Salat. Sila, Salat. Right? All these things are familiar. These have ideas that have focused in our head. We were looking to get away from anything or back to something that was familiar to us in some way, shape, or form. All of these religions have some sort of familiarity to us in some way, shape, or form. That's what keeps us drawn to it. But is it the ultimate truth? No. It's not the ultimate truth. They have fragments of the truth, but when you mix fragments of the truth, they become lies. If you don't give the people all of the truth, which is God's full intelligence, God's full communication, which is supposed to be based on logic, then you're going to turn these teachings of men become lies because they take fragments of the truth. It's the same way when people, they want to follow certain things and certain things they don't. Like you had your 5%ers, right, who took the teachings of the Nation of Islam through Clarence 13X, and they formed a sect of Islam, the Nation of Gods and Earths. They used a lot of the Moorish science symbols and things like that, and they just basically took what they wanted to take and they formulated another sect of Islam. They called it culture, not a religion. They formed another sect. If you acknowledge Allah and you acknowledge the Star and the Crescent, then you're a Muslim. If you acknowledge that book called the Quran as your book or as an important book, then you're a Muslim. Right? That's what people have done in all of the sects of Islam. They have created their own sects because it was just certain things they didn't like to do. A lot of our people left out of Islam or left out of the Nation of Islam because the codes were too strict. They liked Islam, but they might not like the fact they couldn't smoke cigarettes. They liked Islam, but they might not like the fact that they got to walk around clean shaven. They want to wear hair all over their face. They might have liked Islam, but they didn't like the fact that they couldn't drink liquor. Right? And don't say that y'all don't do it. Don't say y'all don't smoke cigarettes and drink liquor. A lot of you guys in what's called Orthodox Islam, y'all don't do that. You do that. Elijah Muhammad said you can't do that in the Nation of Islam, so that turned a lot of people off. Right? Notice Islam, Orthodox Islam has a greater appeal because the less rules there are, the more people want to be members of it. If I could be a Muslim and smoke cigarettes or smoke weed or lay with anybody I want or not clean my face up, if I don't have nobody telling me what to do, I don't have to take orders from nobody, then of course I'm with it because there's no discipline involved. Anybody could be in it. It becomes just like Christianity. Anybody could be in it. You know, I don't have any laws or rules or discipline. I can do whatever I want to do. Who do I have to answer to? Allah? Allah understand that's what you teach. But you can't see Allah, so Allah isn't a present threat. But in the Nation of Islam, you had captains and soldiers, and it was a breakdown. It was a real regime. You had the messenger on top. You had to answer to them. And of course, you don't want to answer to them. You don't want to answer to nobody. So it makes sense for you to follow an unseen God where you don't have to answer. You can do what you want. That's real. That's why Islam appeals to black people. That's the bad side of Islam and why it appeals to our people. Anytime you can have people like Beanie Siegel and them talking about they Muslim. You understand? You can have people like that talking about they Muslim. You can have rappers, anybody can smoke weed and talking about killing somebody or selling drugs, doing whatever, but I'm Muslim. That's my way of life. But, why would you even claim that? Just like you can have anybody claim to be a Christian or a Catholic or whatever. You can claim anything. You don't, like I said, because you can just do whatever you want because there's no present threat or danger. There's nobody there to discipline you. You understand? That part of it. And then you got people, you actually have black people sit up here like idiots talking about, oh, well, what the Nation of Islam, the ones who ran over there to the Orthodox Muslims, the Sunni Muslims, and ran over there to them. They former slave masters. They ran over there to them and said, oh, well, what the Nation of Islam doing with Elijah Muhammad teaching is not Islam, according to who? according to Muhammad and the Arabs, because they say so. But I thought it was about Allah. It's not about the Arabs. Or maybe it is with you. Maybe you want to follow their way of Islam because it appeals to your lower nature. You can smoke cigarettes and weed and do whatever you want. You can walk around hair all over your face. You know, basically a disorderly person. You don't have to, keep yourself in shape. You have to clean yourself. You can walk around in robes all day, your head tied all up. Right? That's why it appeals to you. You could be a 5%er because, like I said, you do what you want to do. I, self, Lord, and Master, right? It's the same way of thinking. No discipline. I smoke weed if I want. I get drunk if I want. I can mix my seed, be with this one and that one, and mix my seed. I don't have to, I could do all that. Everybody, and it also appeals to you because everybody can be a part of it. Right? Our people, we got this thing with us where we want to be a part of it. As long as we see everybody else a part of it, we see every creed, color, race. Because ain't that the first thing Malcolm X said when he went to Mecca? Oh, I used to think that, Muslims was only black. Then when I got here, I see black Muslims, white Muslims. They all praying together. Yellow Muslims, I see them all praying together. Our people love that. Our people love to be part of something. They don't want to be seen as outcasts, even though you are. Even though that's how they see you in Islam, they don't say they do, but they do. Because how can these people sit up here and then turn around and talk about, you a convert? And I heard an Arab, now they're supposed to be Muslim brothers now. Everybody's Muslim and we all brothers. I heard an Arab tell him, you just a convert to Islam. I was born to Islam. So he was claiming Islam as his birthright, as his religion. And like I said, how can you claim a so-called religion or way of life as yours if it's supposed to come from God? Or do you know something that you ain't telling everybody? Do you really believe it came from a higher source? Or are you just saying that? Does it sound good? You just saying that it came from a higher source. When the truth is, you really don't believe in any higher source. Because you said it. Because you don't believe in nothing you can't see. You don't believe in anything you can't see. It sound good. Because if you believed in something you could see, you would never told Elijah Muhammad that he wasn't practicing real Islam. Who are you to say that? Who are you to say that he wasn't practicing real Islam? I didn't know that you guys sit up here and you based Islam on what Muhammad and them did, and that means that's Muhammad and them religion. Then that means you guys are Mohammedans. You guys are really Mohammedans. You follow Muhammad. If you painting your beard red like a lot of you black men stupidly do, grow hair all over your face, and then you dip your beard in henna and red henna dye, and you walking around looking like mad, like y'all like out of some damn circus or something. Walking around like you somewhere 1,400 years ago, like y'all done lost your minds. Because you following the minds, you following the teachings of a man. You following the philosophies and the traditions of men. When they say you're not supposed to do that, but you are. You are doing that. Do our people really need to be held back in the past, or do we need to move ahead in the future? Because that's against our nature as black people. We're not supposed to be in the past or in the moment. We're supposed to constantly be thinking into the future. That's real. But people took certain things, made certain things appeal to us, and our want to be accepted, our want to be protected, our want and desire to feel as though somebody's looking out for us, to be part of a community, to feel like we're not outcasts because we always were treated like outcasts. That's what made the religion appeal to us when y'all left out of the Nation of Islam. It made it seem as though you were coming into a world community. That's how they made it seem, like you were coming into a world community. However, the world, in that world, they didn't really accept you. And they still don't. They still don't. Let's be for real. They don't accept you. There's 77 different sects of Islam. Right? They don't accept you in any of those sects. You are a convert to Mohammedanism, or what they feel is deemed as Muhammad's religion. And either you practice it like they practice it, or you're wrong. Right? That's the truth. That's the truth. But we have to get forward to where it is we belong as true people. We are not supposed to be people in submission. We're supposed to be people in transmission with God, not in submission. Right? Religion serves a purpose for people who are beneath the intelligence of God. That's what religion serves a purpose as, people who are beneath the intelligence of God. So, therefore, you have to send people out to set up religions, to set up doctrines for these people to follow. And that's what it's been today. You call in any Muslim and you tell me I'm wrong. You tell me I'm wrong. You tell me I'm wrong about the appeal, black, Muslim, whatever. The lines is open. The lines are open. 914-338-0504. 914-338-0504. Call in. Weigh in. I'm not going to bite your head off. All right? All right. We're going to take a call. 423. 423, are you on the air?
Yeah, I'm here. I just want
right.
to add to what you're saying. You know, I've studied a lot of knowledge that came from the West, the East, and I don't know if you know that they said that Allah had 3 daughters. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And they were the ones that were regulating the moon, you know, with your waxing and waning of the moon. And to truly come in tune with this being by the name of Allah, you got to go through them.
Wow, really?
And, yeah, you know, and they the 3 daughters of Allah are the ones that regulate the moon. And I think they got information on it on the internet. They call them the 3 faiths. And they allocated them with thread. They said one of them allocates the thread. That means she gives you the life. The other one gives you the length of the thread. And then the last one, she cuts the thread. And they break those 3 women down as the 3 daughters of Allah. And to truly come in tune with this celestial being by the name of Allah or by the name of the moon spirit, is to go through them. I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Well, that's funny because, you know, they always teach that Allah is not a physical man and that he's not a physical person and, you know, you can't understand what Allah is. And, you know, this is what they teach. You know, this is their teaching, you know.
And they say I'm like, I'm in tune with this body or this celestial being who they gave the name Allah to or come up with this name is to go through his 3 daughters. And, you know, these are the ones that allocate, you know, like people, their life on earth, how long they're going to live, and one of them is the one that actually cuts the thread, cuts the string. And in order to really, really comprehend who Allah is and this whole thing about peace is to go through the 3 faiths, which are his daughters, the ones that regulate the waxing and waning, the 8 cycles of the moon or something like that. I just wanted to share that, and you know, maybe some people can comment on that, or they can, you know. But I just thought that was, you know, when you started talking about Allah, that, you know, I want to share that aspect of what I've learned and what I've been dealing with. You know, it's just, and I think the Egyptians, or back into the older, they call them the 3 triple mother. If you try to put that in the aspect, or the 3 faiths, or the 3 daughters of Allah, they were talking about the triple mother. And to really have a comprehension of this spiritual force, of this celestial being, or the ball of the moon, is to go through the three women, or the three daughters, or the three fates, or the ones that regulate the new moon, half moon, full moon, that aspect, or the moon of the body that is closest to the earth. Because in order to really come in tune with the sun, we know that the sun sends rays, and the moon is the one that catches the rays, and it shows us its, velocity of the rays and the waxing and waning. So to come in tune with this force, we got to go through the three women or the three daughters of Allah. I just want to share that.
Thank you, brother. I've never heard that. That's right up there with the 72 virgins and whatnot. But notice the number of three they keep it in and whatnot. The moon is supposed to pull the tides on the planet and the water and things like that. And it's supposed to regulate the water on the planet because the moon and the earth was supposed to be one together at one point in time. And when Elijah Muhammad taught that the moon was actually blasted from the earth, and that most of the water went over onto the side of the earth, that's
right.
A little bit.
It's deeper. It also, once you really look into it and you relate everything that they're talking about to the temple, the body, your body, then it begins to make a whole lot of sense. How long can you go without, what's the time span, for the force just to take control and just come out itself, So it really gets deep when you begin to break what is out there and try and relate it to the temple.
Well, I mean, why don't they just say what it really is saying? Because, me, I'm not a fan of abstract talking and teaching and allegorical things. I'm not. I like things to be explained to me simple and plain. What is it that you mean? Now, I'm pretty sure that story probably goes back to something else, or means something else. But instead of them doing that, that's like another thing they play heavily in religions, a lot of mysticism and mystery and like, symbolisms,
It's like having an orgasm or having a nut. All that has got something to do with the forces of the moon, which has something to do with the three women. It's all an interplay of what we seek and what we search when we begin to find out who we really are. And, it even goes deeper when he said one of those women is a crone. Then he started breaking down the women. So one of them actually has the animalistic nature. And, now what we begin to find out is that one of those women of daughters of Allah is actually one that's called Babylon.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to share that. I don't want to go too far.
All right. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Take another call, my brother Reginald. Reginald, what's going on, brother?
Hey. Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's going on? Hello? Hello?
You hear me?
Yeah, I can.
You hear me?
Yeah, I got you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm traveling. I'm just gonna say, I'm just glad all the BS is over, man.
Yeah.
Just like you just said. See how what the brother was just saying just goes all around the mulberry bush to tell you, to explain something else to you. That's what all religions do. That's what all religion does. And I just want to say, I'm just glad it's all over. For us, I'm glad it's all over, man, because it was a very difficult journey. Even in Islam for me, it was a very difficult journey. I left Islam because I got tired of beating on people. Because when you disobey, all the brothers got to get you. And I just got tired. That's one reason I just got sick of beating on people, man. Yeah, and then when I find out that the teachers are going all around the mulberry bush to say this one thing, I'm like, this is now I couldn't deal with it anymore, man. I appreciate everything, though. I really do. I appreciate it, everything, the teaching, you know. But I just couldn't do it no more, man. Well, I'm just glad it's over.
Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he tried to make it simple and plain, but, and that was, but, you always have Negroes who want things to be abstract and, they want it to have some more meaning or heavy or more to make it more than what it is,
Yeah.
Got a lot of our people want to be on some space ghost thing, and like I said, we not those kind of people. We are plain, simple people, but in that simplicity is high intelligence, advanced intelligence, because the ability to simplify things is a genius in itself. When you complicate things and you try to, be all abstract and cause confusion, you usually do that because these people do that because they're confused.
Yeah,
so rather than look stupid, they'd rather cause confusion and try to make it seem like they talking about something that's deep or relevant or heavy that just went over your head when they really don't even know what they talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm enjoying the show though, man. And I wanted to chime in just to say I'm glad it's over, brother.
Yeah. You and me both, but for some people the nightmare continues. Certain people are going to stay in the twilight world.
And the only thing that's left now to be over is having to deal on a consistent basis with regular people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
As far as having to work for other people and having to, just be around them. And that's when that's over, then I think I got heaven here.
Yeah, well, heaven is something you keep on perfecting yourself as you receive an intelligence. That's something you constantly in a state of perfecting too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, man, as soon as the I'm able to be around the brotherhood and the sisterhood, the mentalians, it's gonna be beautiful, man. But I know it's coming, So I'm just doing what I got to do.
I'm at the point I don't desire nothing out here no more. When I look at our people, and I just feel like I'm disgusted when I look at our people today. I am just so damn disgusted. I'm just like, and now I'm just indifferent. Now, I'm just like, I feel so foreign, to our people right now. And it's supposed to be like that. And hopefully our people are lifting in that level of thought to start being like that, never get caught, because that's something I notice with our people. You start this evolution of this lift, and then you fall back down amongst the people. But for the ones who are in tune, they're not going to fall. We're going to lift together collectively. We're not, those people who still have a desire to be in the world and of these people are around these people, and and doing the things they're doing. Like I said, that's not where we going.
I'm done. I'm done with it too, man. I feel the same way. I can't really stand to be around anyone except for children. That's it.
Yeah.
A total recluse. But I'm very satisfied.
Okay.
I'm very satisfied.
Okay.
Hey, I'm gonna continue listening, man. It's an excellent show once again, brother.
Thank you very much, brother. Good hearing from you.
Take care.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Brother Reginald. December 16th, Sunday, December 16th, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, the Supermen, Superwomen Project, the Supermental Projection. It is the last one of the year that we're doing on December 16th at 1368 Fulton Street, in Bed-Stuy section of Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy Restoration Plaza, where I will be speaking, question and answer, between Brooklyn and New York Avenues. I will be speaking and answering questions, okay, about the mentalists, what the state of mental is, and why is the future movement, the future intelligence movement for our people, and why our people should be coming to our true way of life, which is mentellect. Because mentellect, mentellect, is the true way of life for an advancing people who are coming out of the black race, our true way of life. Real, not from me, through me. Not from me, through me. All right? We ain't living in the Twilight world. Speaking of which, The Twilight World by Swing Out Sister, one of my favorite cuts. We'll be right back. I'll answer that question in the chat room. Somebody asked, can Aryans be a part of the bright race? First of all, Aryans are East Indians. That's who Aryans, real Aryans are, not white people. White people, Germans and Hitler and them was calling themselves Aryans, but that word Aryan means far and away. That's a Sanskrit word. The real Aryans, the original Aryans, are East Indians, which the white race comes out of. Your white race comes from the East Indians. They're all of the Asiatic tribes. Your Asiatic black men, your true Asiatic black men are East Indians, not so-called Negroes. And your white race comes out of those people. They have the same kind of hair. They have just the only thing is they have a dark shade to them, but they got the same kind of hair, the same kind of features. They all move off key. The Asians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the East Indians, and the white man, they're all the same people. They all Asiatics. The white man's a Caucasiatic. It's all Asian because that mountain range of the Caucasus Mountains goes all the way over into Russia and then all the way into Asia. Right? I understand you're just trying to understand, but, this is something our people do. Reason why we said that the black race of the people who are in darkness are the bright people, or the bright ones, the people who are the solar intelligent force. They are the ones in darkness because the so-called black race is not black at all. You understand? We are, when we say the black race, we're talking about the people who are actually brown people who are supposed to be solar intelligent beings, the ones who are of a solar plex or of the solar complex. These are the people who are supposed to be known as the bright race, not the black. We became the black race, or were called the black race, as the opposite end of the white race, because they needed somebody on opposite people to be the foundation or the bottom part of their heresy or their supremacy or that order that they were trying to build. So the best order, the best people to be at the foundation or at the bottom of that order would be so-called black people. You would have to make these people or tell people that these people are the opposite end of you, right? In other words, in order for you to be thought of as a great people or a good people, you have to have a people who are looked at as bad. So they started calling the bright race, our people, the ones who were different from everybody else, they started calling us the black race. And I said before, our people never really truly accepted that up until the 60s. You understand, being called black. When they start pushing that black power nonsense and black pride and start calling our people black, because you know how our people are, we always take the crumbs or the filth off of the table of people who calling us these titles, and we try to make something proud out of it. Same way we took ham hocks and chitlins and all the worst parts of the slave food, and we cooked it up and seasoned and called it soul food. We good for taking people's garbage and garbage identities and titles and trying to make it something more than what it is and try to get proud behind that. We're not black people. What keeps us black people is because we're constantly worrying about other people or trying to be the opposite end or the opposite spectrum or carbon copy of white people and everybody else. From our women straightening their hair to look like white women and dyeing their hair, to our men trying to follow religions and trying to be the black versions of the white man. We need to stop that. It's not about a racial thing when we're talking about the bright race, but the bright race are people that are coming out of the black race. You understand? It's like people coming from out of darkness into light. That's what that is. And it's only going to be those people who are of the bright race. Right? Those people who are coming out from amongst the black race or the so-called Negroes. That's your bright race. That's your elect that's talking about in the book of Revelations. You understand? And no, everybody can't belong to that. Not even all of your black race don't belong to it. It's not a racial thing because not all of your black so-called people, your so-called Negroes who consider themselves black, they not part of it. All right? They're not part of this evolution. They're not part of the bright race. So for people who want to say, oh, I see, it's just another black thing, and, these guys just want to be, they want to be separate from everybody. They want to be. But here's the thing. Nobody ever asks, and this is what always makes me mad. If the Italians say they want to be separate, that's fine. Nobody say, oh, why we can't be black Italians? Or if the Jews want to separate and say we just Jews and we from Germany and Russia, nobody ever says, oh, why can't we be, well, some of you Negroes do that. You want to run up in their thing. And they got every right to separate and be amongst themselves and, and claim themselves as the chosen people if that's what they want to do. Who are you to argue with that? If that's what they believe, that's fine. So if we separate ourselves with the bright races, the Mentalian race, then that's our damn business. We don't have to include nobody in nothing. And black people who constantly do that, well, can white people come? That's that we all in the same gang, we love everybody mentality, and that's fine. You can make them part of the black race or any organization to stay in Islam and do that if you want to. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. And I wasn't trying to I'm not trying to bite your head off or anything. I'm just explaining to you. But sometimes when so-called black people do that, they want to include everybody in something, but nobody want to include you in nothing. And you got no problem with that. You got no problem being discriminated against. But then when we say that and it's not even that we discriminating because by race, we discriminating by intelligence. Because we acknowledge that the bright race has a different form of intelligence. We are controlled, or we are being sent a different form of intelligence from everybody else, even from the black race in this day and time. We are being sent a different form of intelligence. And it doesn't run parallel with anybody's intelligence within the human race. And it's going to start to widen in its gap in a minute. It's not supposed to run parallel. Right? This is why we don't take everybody. This is why everybody's not of the bright race. So, it's just an evolution in people. It's an evolution in people. Same way you had, at one point, you had your Cro-Magnon men. Then you had your, what do they call it? You had your Homo sapien and all that. Your Cro-Magnon men. Consider us an evolution of the so-called black race. The bright race is an evolved or an evolution in progress coming out of the black race. All right? People coming out of darkness into light. A new race of people. All right? That's what we are. That's what the Mentalians are. That's what the bright race is. We are not of the black race. We are not Africans. We are not black. We are not Egyptians and all this other stuff. Like I said, our people was in those schools of thought or in those places at one point in time, but that's not ultimately who we were. Understand? Those were names that we picked up in those areas, but we moved on. There's always an evolution taking place. But unfortunately, our people have not evolved. A lot of our people are not going to evolve. People who want to stay in a religion, want to stay in a philosophy, want to stay in a concept that is based in the past, that is based on other people and their ideas and dreams and philosophies. Now, they'll say, oh, well, brother, ain't you doing the same thing where you trying to bring up your own philosophy and things like that? No, it's not mine. Reason being is because when I sit and I teach this, and I teach the knowledge of intellect to my people, they know, and it resonates with them on a higher level, on a higher frequency, and it resonates as things that come out as logical. It resonates as being logical. So logic comes from God. Order, structured thinking comes from God. Now, the minute I ask you something about a religion, if I ask you questions dealing with logic concerning Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, or any structured religion, and you can't answer it from a logical standpoint in the question, like they say in your Bible, if you see that spirit, test that spirit, meaning that man or that teaching, whatever the person coming with, test it. The test is logic. The test is common sense. The test is intelligence. Ask simple questions. If you cannot answer those questions, if you cannot answer or defend your religion or what you're trying to teach as to be true by logic, by intelligence, then it is of man. It is not of God. It is of man. It is the philosophies and the fragmented ideas of man. You understand that? It is the fragmented truths which become lies. It is the fragmented truths of man. You take bits and pieces from different places that you like, and you put together a doctrine, which is what the Muslims did. They took bits and pieces of Christianity, Egyptology, a little bit of everything. Created a prophet, and they put it together. Sound nice, because it appeals to everybody. It appeals to something and everybody it appeals to. You understand? With the blacks, it has a tinge of polygamy and Egyptology, and it has a little bit of that in there. Has a bit of the Eastern thing in there with people, brotherhood, prayer, submission. It has a little bit of everything in there. You have people who are into the whole submission thing because I said humans are slaves. Humans were made to be slaves. Humans were made to be slaves. That's why they big on the idea of religion. Because what do they say? A person submits to the will of God or the will of Allah, right? So if you're submitting to the will of Allah, you are a servant of Allah, then that means you're a slave of Allah. And the name Abdullah, which a lot of Muslims get, means slave of Allah. Abdullah. Abdullah. Servant or slave of Allah. Because, as I said, the Amen beings, the God race, created humans as slaves. That's real. They created slaves to work, to mine out gold, going back to the Sumerian story. You understand that? Or the account. I don't like to say story. Going back to the Sumerian account. God created men to work. Right? That's why, man started following that vibration on the planet of enslaving other men and women because there's a slave vibration on this planet. There is a heavy slave vibration on this planet. And that vibration is so heavy that certain people are going to go back into bondage again because that vibration is heavy on the planet. Master-slave mentality, right? Because the minute you call somebody a master, right, it becomes reminiscent of a slave, a servant. They say you here to serve God, right? It's the same thing as being a servant or a slave. You understand that? They know that this is a slave planet and that people were made to work, to slave, till you die. That's why religion appeals to people. It appeals to the person who is in submission to God because you by nature are encoded with the idea of being a servant to God. And I said you got those people who are servants, and that's fine. I'm not knocking you for that. You're fine. You're supposed to be a servant to God. You have those who are in submission to God and those who are in transmission with God. But you will serve a purpose. You will serve a purpose. You will be in submission through man, right, from God. You will be in submission from man, from God through man, I should say. Right? Now, those people who are in transmission with God, those are the people who are receiving in this day and time. They're going to bypass your religion. They don't need the religion no more. They don't bypass that. They don't bypass the Christianity, the Islam, and the Judaism, and the Pan-African and all that. So they bypassed all that because they recognize it as submissive points of man. Certain people still need that. But the whole point of it was to totally receive from God. Now, a lot of people don't really think that's possible. That's why they will never leave the religion. They think that they got to constantly, that these people that they call prophets or your Muhammad or these people were so special. They was the special ones. This is what they teach you in religion, that they were the special ones to talk to God. That they would be the only ones to receive in that time. And that another person wouldn't come and receive because you would reject it. Right? This is how you keep your religion in its pristine state. And you keep followers in your religion by teaching that this was the prophet, this is what we follow, and that's it. That's not natural for our people. That's natural for humans to follow. Not for the Amen race, not the people who are direct bloodline descendants of God. You black people or so-called Negroes who are direct bloodline descendants of God, you already supposed to have it encoded in your DNA to follow and go into something new. You're always supposed to be in a state of evolution. You're not supposed to be stagnant following a bunch of principles and beliefs in a circle. That's not even natural to you. You Negroes that are doing it, you're dead. You're mentally dead. Your light has been put out, and yes, you are of the damn black race. You are of the black race. Because those people who are truly in tune with God, you are moving forward. You should no longer be following a religion. You should have woke up by now. You shouldn't be following no Christianity, no Islam, and no Judaism. You should have woke up by now. You should have realized that these are nothing but teachings of men. These are nothing but fragmented teachings of men. You should have woke up by now. If God, the true and living God, Amen, is not revealing himself through you or through my words, and it's not resonating with you through my words, if it's not cutting on a light within you in this day and time, then you are of the dead. Because you following in a rotation. You following rituals, a.k.a. spirituals or special rituals. You are still moving in a circle. You understand that? At least the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he tried to break the circle a little bit. Instead of having y'all doing 5 prayers, y'all was doing 7. Keep it in tune with that number 7. Because that was the number of God. That's the day, as I said, the day God came and rested on the planet. Rested down, came down on earth physically, rested on the planet. After the creations, after putting things in order, structuring things. Structuring the creation. This is real. Like scientists. Like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, like scientists. God is a scientist. God is a businessman, a scientist, highly intelligent man. But they don't want, the people in religion don't want to see God like that. Yet these are the same people that sit around and talking about Allah's daughters, like the brother said, or going to heaven and having sex with 72 virgins. But they can believe that or believe that madness. But then they can't fathom that Allah is a man. That's too far fetched. But you can believe you're gonna go to heaven and have sex with some black-eyed maidens. 72, I believe. Madness. This is what our people are trapped in. Madness. Because, like I said, our lights have been snuffed out. And what is that light that has been snuffed out? Our intelligence. Our minds have been snuffed out. Our connection with God has been snuffed out. So much so that we following a bunch of rituals and things like that, walking around like we somewhere 1,400 years ago. We're not receiving the true intelligence of God on earth today. We're not receiving that. Because if we were, you would see our people moving forward. But you don't see our people moving anywhere. We're still at the bottom. We're still doing nothing in the world. We're still talking about nothing in the world. When are our people going to wake up? All right? I'm not talking about the dead. I'm not talking about the dead. I'm talking about the people who are asleep. Because the dead, that's not much you can do for the dead. Right? There's not much you can do for the dead. Except respect the dead. Step over their bodies and keep moving. Because they're going to keep praying. They're going to keep waiting. They're going to keep doing their same rituals. They're going to come out of masjid and smoke their cigarettes or smoke their weed or whatever they're doing. Or get drunk. They're going to come from their Israelite camps and get drunk and screw all kind of nasty women. They're going to do all that stuff in the name of God. What God is that? Right? These are the people that want you to listen to them, that want you to take them seriously. 72 black-eyed maidens waiting for you in heaven to have to be with. Are you going to have sex in heaven? I didn't think you had private parts up there. These people want you to take them seriously. Allah's daughters. But, our people will fall for anything. Go with what makes sense. Go with what logically makes sense. You understand that? Go with what makes sense. Does this make sense to you? Does it really make sense to you? I need a little music. What do I want to play? Usually get my 4 songs in. I know what I want to play. Where is he? My favorite song for the 3rd consecutive week I want to play it. Hold on. Here we go. Nora Jones and Q-Tip. Life is better. We'll be right back. Life is better since I left religion. I'm going to talk about why I left religion when I come back. I'm going to talk about why I left Islam. Sister asked me to speak on that, so I will when I come back. Let me just hear my jam for the night. We'll be right back. Yeah, life was better when I left Islam. I left Islam, I kind of went through the change when Dr. York and them was out of Islam, I was out. When he closed down the masjid and stuff like that, because, he didn't want to be associated with the East and that whole, anti-Muslim sentiment and things like that was going on at the time, because, there was a big, heavy anti-Muslim sentiment going on in this country. And, plus it was time to move on. You can only sit up and talk about Muhammad and the people in the East and, and his vision with God and all this other stuff. It really wasn't moving our people forward. I was tired of it myself. I'm like, how is this helping us? How is this moving us forward? We're talking about and we're trying to live the lives of people who lived 1,400 years ago. We're trying to dress like them, act like them, groom ourselves like them. Who are we? I wanted to know, who are we becoming? it was a good study and things like that, but I didn't sign up to become somebody else. I wanted to be who I was. I wanted to find out who I was. And you can't find out who you are by following the life or following the rituals or customs of other people. We're trying to evolve as a people. When I was when Dr. York, he started because he would refer to us as Nubian Islamic Hebrews, right? And they were learning Arabic at the time, and Dr. York was fluent in Arabic, Hebrew, down pat, right? But I was just like, okay, I was thinking, so I was like, we Nubian Islamic Hebrews, we Nubians. I was feeling the Nubian thing. Okay. Then I'm like, okay, well, we Nubians speaking Arabic. And I said, we need our own language. We need a language. And I kept thinking, I was like, maybe a Nubian language or something like that. We need our own language, a Nubian language. Why Dr. York came and, he must have heard me, or he was on that same level thinking, he came with the Nubic language. Came with the Nubic. We stopped with the Arabic. He came with the Nubic. Busted out. I was like, I was excited. We Nubians and we speak Nubic. I was like, yeah. And our homeland is Nubia. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling that. I don't want. How are we gonna be Nubians speaking Arabic? I don't want to share the same language with the Arabs. We want our own thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody else wants their own thing. Nobody says anything about it. Man, we want our own thing. Oh, why are you trying to exclude people? Y'all racist. But everybody else can have their own thing. And I ain't got no problem with everybody else having their own thing. Like I said, the Italians can have their thing. The Jews can have their thing. The Germans, the Irish, the Dutch. I don't care. The Africans. Why can't we have our own thing and not feel like we got to include everybody? You understand? Why can't we do that? And you got simple-minded black people that be, well, why can't they be part of it? Why don't you go over there and ask the Italians, can you be a black Italian? Much as you Negroes want to be black Italians, calling yourself Gambino and Genovese like a bunch of damn fools, trying to put on these people's culture. That's how I felt about the Arabic thing, about putting on their culture. I didn't want to put on their culture. I didn't want to share any names with these people, because I felt like I was biting off of these people after a while. I felt like I was trying to be in their image and after they likeness. And I was like, nah, I don't want that. You understand? I don't want that. I don't want to sit around and constantly keep talking about what Muhammad did in the desert. I don't care. All right? I'm not going to keep trying to sit around and break down the Quran and find different meanings in the Quran and whatnot. Look, man, I read it for what it was. It's a bunch of stories about people 1,400 years ago or even longer who may or may not have lived, and I don't care. It has nothing to do with me now. You want to sit around and try to find some meaning or some deepness in that? That's up to you. That just shows that you really have no life or any identity, because you got to look and find your life and identity in the lives of a bunch of people that done been dead a long time ago, if they even existed. That's sad. That is so sad and pathetic. I'm going to take a call. 423. You're on there.
Yeah, when I was talking about the three women or the three daughters of Allah, I was basically telling you the symbolism of what they put before us. If you know anything about Egypt and the pyramids of Egypt, you got three pyramids right there together.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically symbolism for you to come in tune with a higher comprehension of what's going on. In front of one of those pyramids is a sphinx, which is the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh. That's basically letting you know that within one of those bodies, man is both man is both animal and man. So when I told you that there was 3 daughters and one of them was a crone, that lets you know that there's a transmutation going on. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't just trying to, I ain't saying nothing about no 72. Now, we can go into the number 72 because 72 comes out to what, 9. So it ain't like I'm teaching on your program. I was just sharing stuff. And whatever I share, your listeners can Google it, write it down, and look it up for a future date for you to go into this more detail. So I'm sharing knowledge with you guys, and I'm sharing wisdom. Because when you begin to really comprehend something, you're going to have to look within and find out how all this stuff that they put before, how does it relate to me now, and how do I connect with that divine being that's called Amen.
Well, here's the thing. Let me stop you for a second, because I mean, I thank you for. I wasn't trying to, disregard what you was teaching or what. I thank you for what you added on to the program. But my thing is, and how we are in the state of Mentel, who cares? We don't care. We don't care about what they were trying to get across. We don't give a damn about the symbolism. It has nothing to do with us now. We are connecting directly to Amen. That's it. We don't care about what they were trying to say over Allah's daughters, his cousin, his aunt, his father. We don't care about that. I'm just saying that as what we teaching. That has no relevance to us. Amen, making the direct connection with Amen, that's what we're going. We're going straight by a straight line. The quickest points, how they say, between is a straight line between 2 points, Amen and us, and becoming Amen out and bringing Amen out of us. We're not interested in anybody's stories or fairy tales or accounts or symbolisms no more. So, I mean, I thank you though, brother, definitely. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. But what I'm basically saying, and what you're saying is true. But in order to get to that stage, it's something put before you that you're gonna have to master.
No, brother, we don't been there already, but we don't gotta go. Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't gotta master that. That we don't need that, brother. We don't need it.
You're not gonna go into your God abilities. What you gonna go into your God abilities and still trying to make a deal with Congress? Or the Senate?
No, we not. We ain't got nothing to do. We don't care about that, brother.
When you come in tune with your God abilities, all that's going to be obsolete. You're going to go directly, like you said, directly to our men.
That's what we're doing. That's the connection we made. I already made the connection, brother. I already made the connection. I'm not interested in anything about what Congress talking about. I'm not interested in the problem. I'm not interested in.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. So I was just sharing the stuff that our men set on this earth for us to see as symbolism and for us to master. In order for you to come in tune with your Amen nature, your supreme nature, you got to go through those 3 pyramids. You got to go through that pyramid that has that sphinx in front of it.
No, we don't, brother. No, we don't. We don't have to do any of that.
Somebody's going to have to do it on Earth.
Somebody else going to do it. We're not doing that. That's not what we do.
Somebody on Earth is going to do it for you to walk behind.
Nobody's down. No, we ain't. Well, I never been nowhere near the East, and I'm receiving, so I don't need that.
I'm not talking about the places all mental, dude.
Yeah, okay. So then don't all that walking in front of the pyramids and listening to some 3 daughters. We're not.
What I'm telling you, I never been to Egypt. Physically, so mentally I've been there.
Okay,
mentally, I stood right in front of it.
Brother, it's not about Egypt, brother. It's not about Egypt. It's about Amen. This is the problem with our people. This comes right. Hold on, brother. Let me say this. Hold on, brother. Wait a minute, brother. You said mentally you were in Egypt. What I'm trying to
tell you is that I've been there in the mind.
It don't matter, brother. It's not about Egypt. Amen is not in Egypt. You keep saying Egypt. That's like the people sitting up here praying toward the Mecca in the east and talking about Allah's in the east. In the east, where? There's no. It don't matter. I'm saying it don't matter about no Egypt. Egypt is dead, brother. It's dead. It's a bunch of ruins in Egypt right now. That's it. Egypt is finished.
Whenever I say something, it's just letting you. It's conveying information for you to think higher. And
okay, but we don't need.
If you don't believe what I'm saying, you can always Google it. That's all.
We don't care about that though, brother. That's fine. Thank you. I appreciate it. But we don't care about that. We don't care about Egypt. We don't care about Africa. We don't care about the pyramids, the 3 pyramids. It's not about that. Amen has nothing to do with that. That's people in ruins that have been built, and that's it. The end. But I thank you for that, brother. I got to finish off these questions. Like I said, I thank you for what you gave and added on, brother. But we're not interested in that. We're not interested in the pyramids. Peace, brother. All right. I wasn't trying to get huffy with the brother. I was letting him know, we make a direct connection with Amen. Amen is in the universe, moving on that planet that's constantly in motion. We're not interested in a bunch of ruins. That's what people get it twisted at. Amen ain't got nothing to do with that. Yeah, that was people that built that on direction of Amen, and they're gone. Those pyramids are ruins now. So all you Negroes going to Egypt or going and praying in the East, that's a waste of time, man. Why does Islam appeal to black people? Islam appeals to black people because it has symbolisms of Egypt in it. It has certain symbolisms of Egypt in it. We don't have to go through the whole Islam thing and run through that and whatnot. We don't need that. We don't gotta Google anything and study that. We're not interested in that. We're not trying to find the symbolism and the mysticism. That people who want to do all that, that's up to you. That's what you want to do, that's fine. We make a direct connection with ourselves, our Amen connection within us. We don't have to look outward. The outward that we're talking about is out in the universe. It ain't got nothing to do with no pyramids, no Egypt, no Islam, or anything these people are doing. These people just put fragments of the truth in their religion. We don't need the fragments anymore. We getting the full-on connection. That's where we heading. Is Islam the true way of life for black people? No, it is not. We are supposed to be people who are transmitting and receiving in transmission with Amen, not in submission to anybody. That is for humans to do. Humans are in submission because they were made to be slaves. Okay? It is not our way of life. Only thing is, like I said, as far as the peace goes, because we are intelligent beings, and as Amen beings, not human beings, as Amen beings, realizing that we are supposed to be people of peace, which is intelligence, until we have to defend ourselves, of course. That's only intelligent. But we still do it in the name of peace. Why was it so popular amongst American black people? Because, like I said, it had remnants of Egypt in it. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wore that fez and that star in the crescent and things like that, points of light that were consistent with the universe and in space, that's what resonated to us. Things outside this world, the celestial plane. That's why Islam was popular with us, right? That's what brought us to it. Who is Allah? Allah is the all-seeing Ah, or the all-Amen, all-Amen, right? The Omni, all-seeing, all-knowing, Omni, always present, always potent, the all-Ah, right? Why does Allah really have 99 attributes? Because he's a physical person. A physical person can only have things attributed to him, his physical being. So stop with this nonsense about Allah is not a man, or Amen is not a man, or that God is not a man. Stop with that madness, because if you give him 99 plus 1 attributes, and that means somebody's attributing to him, and that you had to have some sort of physical connection, or somebody had to have some physical contact with him. You can't give physical attributes to no unseen force. Will young black people stay in Islam for the future? No, they will not. Not the intelligent ones anyway. They're going to move forward and beyond that. So that's all I wanted to say. I want to thank those of you who called in. I want to thank the brothers who participated. I wasn't biting your head off, brother, and I wasn't trying to cut you off. I was just letting you know we're just not interested. All right? So, in the whole Islam thing and trying to find symbolism and wanting to read books. We passed that old information stage. All right, we're not falling for that. So we moved on. It's about receiving intelligence from on high, meaning outside the universe in that collective world, and that's what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was trying to gear our people toward. Receiving universal knowledge. Universal knowledge is knowledge that is coming from out of the universe, from that continuous world in which Allah, Amen, wherever you want to refer to God as, though his true title is Amen, who begat men, came from. And that's it. Join us Monday night for State of Mentel Radio. It'll be another hot topic. I am the intellectual Nuben Menkares. This has been State of Mentel Radio. Good night. Still Dope by Star.
It's the Republic of Mentellect, rising out the black race to the white race, out the black race to the white race. It's the Republic of Mentellect, black race to the white race. there's hell, and then there's hell us. They tried everything just to spell us. Fed us religion, gave us fake gods. Through all of that, we beat the odds. Now we coming together under one flag. Colors red, gold, and blue. Superman, Superwoman, that's me and you. The infinite capabilities that we can